Prophet Noah stands as one of the most enduring figures in the history of divine guidance. He was chosen by the Creator during a time of deep moral and spiritual corruption. As people abandoned the belief in one God and embraced idol worship, pride, and injustice, Noah was sent to restore truth and remind humanity of its purpose. His mission came generations after Adam, Seth, and Enoch, when human societies had grown but lost their connection to divine teachings. Idol worship replaced monotheism, and false gods were created to serve personal desires. Communities became divided by injustice and arrogance, and people forgot their Creator. In this darkness, Noah emerged not just as a preacher, but as a reformer and a model of faith. His message was simple yet powerful. Return to the worship of the one God, live with justice, and remember your responsibility. He lived among his people, speaking their language, sharing their lives, and calling them back to truth. Noah's life was defined by patience and strength. He preached for centuries, facing constant rejection, mockery, and even betrayal from those closest to him. Yet he never gave up. His mission became a powerful example of prophetic endurance, rooted in obedience and unwavering faith. His story also marks the first great divine judgment in human history. When his people refused to change, the great flood came, destroying those who denied the truth and saving those who believed. The ark he built became a symbol of faith, obedience, and divine mercy. Those who mocked it drowned, and those who entered it survived. Noah's mission was not measured by numbers, but by truth. He preserved the message of God, gave humanity a second chance, and became the father of a new generation. His story appears in many religious traditions, all honoring his strength, devotion, and perseverance. He serves as a link between early prophets and the structured revelations to come. His role was not only to preach, but to help rebuild civilization on the foundation of faith and justice. The ark he built was more than wood. It was an act of trust in the unseen and a lesson for every future generation. Prophet Noah's life reflects divine mercy and unwavering hope. He called his people day and night, in public and private, with love and concern. Even when they rejected him, he prayed for them. Only when all hope was lost did he call for divine judgment with sorrow, not anger. In every age, Noah's story reminds believers to hold firmly to truth, even when it's unpopular. His life teaches that salvation comes not through popularity or power, but through faith, obedience, and patience. He remains a symbol of light in dark times, a father to generations, and a model for those who stand for truth when others turn away. Birth and early life. Prophet Noah was born into a noble lineage, descending from the righteous generations of Adam through Seth and Enoch. His birth came at a time when the world had fallen far from its sacred beginnings, while most of humanity had turned to idol worship and false traditions. Noah was raised among one of the few families that still held to the original truth, belief in one Creator. From his earliest days, Noah witnessed a world filled with carved idols, hollow rituals, and praises sung to the dead rather than to the living God. Idolatry had become the norm, not the exception. People worshipped symbols and statues, forgetting the pure teachings of their ancestors. But within Noah's household, the legacy of truth was quietly preserved. Noah's father, Lamech, was a righteous man who taught his son the values of earlier prophets. He passed down the knowledge of the Creator, the importance of worship, and the warning against falsehood. Through this guidance, Noah grew into a boy of thought, reflection, and sincerity. While others laughed and followed popular customs, Noah observed in silence. He questioned what others accepted without thinking. As he grew, Noah stood apart from his peers, not by choice, but by conviction. He avoided idol festivals, preferred solitude, and spent time in nature. He found peace in observing the stars, rivers, and skies. In the cycles of nature, he saw signs of a single Creator, not many gods. His heart was drawn to the truth before he ever received revelation. By the time he reached adulthood, Noah had earned a strong reputation for honesty, humility, and fairness. He worked with his hands, dealt fairly with others, and treated everyone with dignity. He was respected by the poor and viewed with suspicion by the powerful. Even though he had not yet spoken against idol worship, those in control could sense that his values were different. Noah's deep connection with the natural world shaped his inner life. He observed the harmony in creation, the order of the stars, the change of seasons, the rhythm of life and death. All of this confirmed his belief that the universe had one wise creator, not many man-made deities. His quiet worship and private prayers reflected a soul already close to divine truth. He married and had children, building a home grounded in faith and discipline. Though he tried to pass down the same values to his family, not all of them would accept the truth. One of his sons and his wife would later reject his message, showing that guidance is a matter of personal choice, not family ties. Noah's greatness did not come from wealth or status. He was not a ruler or trained leader. His strength was in his truthfulness, patience, and moral clarity. His life before prophethood was a long preparation, filled with small acts of goodness, quiet prayers, and personal discipline. Even before the divine call came, Noah had been shaped by he saw falsehood but didn't join it. He felt alone but never bitter. He questioned deeply but stayed silent until the time was right. Every experience, every quiet moment of worship, every test of character was part of his preparation. In conclusion, Prophet Noah's early life reflects the making of a true messenger. Born in an age of spiritual darkness, he held tightly to the light. Surrounded by idols, he remained faithful to the Creator. Before he was chosen, he had already chosen truth. These early years shaped the soul that would carry the weight of one of the greatest missions in human history. The world at that time, during the time of Prophet Noah, the world had drastically changed from its early beginnings. The teachings of Adam, Seth, and Enoch had been forgotten by most. The belief in one God had faded, and idol worship had become the foundation of society. What was once a world of faith had become a place of falsehood, confusion, and injustice. People no longer followed divine guidance. Instead, they built idols in memory of righteous men and began worshipping them. Temples were raised, rituals created, and festivals held to honor these false gods. Priests claimed special powers and used religion to control people, demanding offerings and obedience in exchange for blessings. The worship of the one Creator was buried under layers of myth and fear. This idol worship became a full system, widespread and enforced. Those who questioned it were mocked or punished. Truth was replaced with tradition. Religion became a tool of power shared between corrupt leaders and false priests. Moral values declined with spiritual truth. The rich exploited the poor. The powerful ruled through fear. Cheating and dishonesty became common in trade and daily life. Families were broken by greed. Love was replaced by pride, and compassion gave way to selfish ambition. Those who lived with sincerity were laughed at and pushed aside. Materialism became the new religion. Success was measured by wealth, status, and fame. People competed in luxury, building grand homes, wearing costly clothes, and hosting extravagant events. Meanwhile, the weak were forgotten. Orphans wandered the streets. The sick were ignored. Society cared more for gold than for goodness. Knowledge, too, was twisted. Scholars used their minds not to seek truth, but to support falsehood. Astrologers misused the stars to deceive. Healers mixed truth with superstition. Artists praised idols and flattered kings. The wisdom of earlier prophets was lost or hidden. Learning became a tool for control, not for reflection. This corruption wasn't limited to one region, it spread across tribes and nations. Each group had its own idols and traditions, but the core was the same, a rejection of the Creator. Unity was based on culture and bloodline, not truth. Reformers were silenced, and the world resisted change. Still, a small group of believers remained. They remembered the original teachings and worshipped quietly. Though they had no power, they held on to faith. Their hearts longed for guidance, and their prayers reached the Creator. In response, Noah was chosen. The people of that time were also proud. They believed their strength in numbers made them untouchable. They took credit for the wonders of nature, claiming them as signs of their gods. They dismissed any call to truth, thinking they needed no correction. Their arrogance blinded them. Technologically, they were not primitive. They built large structures, managed trade, and grew their resources. But their progress gave them a false sense of security. They believed their success meant they were right, and that if God was displeased, He would have already punished them. They ignored the signs around them. Into this world, Prophet Noah was sent, a world that had forgotten its Creator, distorted its values, and silenced its conscience. He was sent not just to speak, but to save, to awaken hearts, call people to repentance, and build a path of rescue before divine punishment arrived. Noah lived in a world full of noise but empty of truth, a world proud of its idols and blind to its downfall. His task would be difficult, facing mockery, rejection, and loneliness, but he was chosen to be the light in darkness, the voice of truth in a time of falsehood, and the builder of a new beginning. Signs of prophethood. The signs of Prophet Noah's divine mission were evident long before his public call. These signs were not dramatic miracles, but were found in his character, his behavior, and his inner light. From a young age, he stood out for his truthfulness, wisdom, and calm presence. Without seeking attention or power, Noah carried within him a quiet strength that reflected divine favor. One of the clearest signs of his prophethood was his honesty. Noah never lied or deceived. His words were always clear and trustworthy. Even those who later rejected him could not deny his truthfulness. In a society filled with lies and corruption, his honesty was a bright contrast and built deep trust. With those around him, his patience was another powerful sign. Noah endured insults, mockery, and rejection for centuries without losing hope. His patience was active and full of strength, showing an inner connection with the Creator. No ordinary person could remain so steady under such pressure unless supported by divine strength. Noah also displayed a deep understanding of the spiritual sickness in his society. He didn't just speak against idol worship, he addressed pride, greed, and injustice. His ability to see the real problems and offer guidance came from divine insight, not personal opinion or study. He could see what others missed and diagnose the root of their decline. He often spoke about nature, its order, balance, and beauty. He saw creation as a reflection of the Creator's power and used it to awaken people's hearts. He helped others see that rain, stars, trees, and seasons were signs of divine wisdom. This ability to connect creation to faith was a mark of his. Noah also radiated inner peace. Whether people accepted or rejected him, he remained calm. He showed no pride in success, no bitterness in failure. His emotional strength was steady, drawn from his closeness to the Creator. He forgave those who hurt him and continued to pray for their guidance, proving his mission was one of mercy. The consistency of his message was another clear sign. He never changed his teachings to gain followers or avoid criticism. He always called people to worship the one Creator, abandon idols, live justly, and prepare for accountability. Even when his own family rejected him, he did not compromise. His message stayed the same over centuries, a sign that it came from God, not from man. Noah lived a simple life. He never asked for money, power, or praise. He worked with his hands and wore modest clothes. His focus was on truth, not status. When people accused him of hidden motives, he answered that his reward was with the Creator. His humility set him apart from false leaders. Another sign was seen in the people who believed in him. Though few in number, they were sincere and deeply transformed. They gave up falsehood and chose truth, even when it cost them everything. Their faith reflected the purity of Noah's message and confirmed that he was a true guide. One of the most visible signs was the building of the ark. Noah began constructing a huge vessel on dry land with no sea nearby. People laughed and called him mad, but he worked with full certainty, plank by plank, without doubt. This act of obedience in the face of mockery showed his complete trust in divine command. As the ark neared completion and signs of the flood appeared, people still refused to believe, but Noah stood firm. His ability to prepare for something no one had seen, a flood that would change the world, proved his divine insight. When the flood finally came, and the deniers were lost, the truth of his message was confirmed. Yet even then, Noah did not celebrate. He mourned for the souls who had rejected guidance. His heart remained full of mercy. His mission was never about winning or power, it was about saving souls and obeying the Creator. In conclusion, the signs of Noah's prophethood were found in his truthfulness, patience, wisdom, spiritual vision, humility, and total obedience. He was not simply a wise man, but a divinely chosen messenger. His life was proof that true guidance shines quietly, over time, through character and faith, not through noise or show. Those with open hearts could see that Noah was sent by the Creator to lead a lost world back to truth. The call to prophethood marked a turning point, not only in the life of Prophet Noah, but also in the spiritual history of humanity. After years of inner preparation, reflection, and personal piety, Noah received the divine commission that would define his mission and legacy for all generations. This call did not descend upon a man unfamiliar with truth, but upon one already immersed in worship, sincerity, and divine awareness. It was a call from the Creator to rise above personal devotion and enter the arena of public guidance, to become not only a worshipper, but a warner, a reformer, and a beacon of divine light in an age of darkness. The moment of Noah's divine calling was not marked by worldly ceremony, but by a profound spiritual encounter that awakened within him the full weight of his responsibility. The Creator chose him from among all the people of his time and placed upon his shoulders the burden and honor of conveying the message of truth to a society buried in disbelief and corruption. This commission came with clarity, certainty, and authority. There was no doubt in his heart, no hesitation in his soul. He knew that he had been chosen not for his strength or eloquence, but for his sincerity, steadfastness, and unwavering devotion. Once called, Noah embraced his mission with complete submission. He did not ask for delay, proof, or comfort. He recognized the gravity of the trust he had been given and immediately set out to fulfill it. His first task was to understand the nature of his people's deviation and the depth of their resistance to truth. Though he had observed their behavior for many years, the divine command sharpened his perception and deepened his sense of urgency. What had once caused him sorrow now ignited in him a sacred responsibility. He no longer wept alone in prayer, but now stood publicly as a warner and a guide. Noah's first step in his mission was to reach out gently and directly to his people. He approached them with wisdom, compassion, and patience. He reminded them of their origin as descendants of Adam, their duty as created beings, and their obligation to worship the one Creator who had given them life, sustenance, and guidance. He spoke to them of the signs in the heavens and the earth, the cycles of life, the blessings of rain and growth, and the evidence of divine wisdom in every aspect of creation. He called them to abandon their idols and superstitions and to return to the pure path of monotheism. His message was simple, clear, and universal. Worship the Creator alone, do not associate partners with him, and live lives of truth, justice, and humility. He warned them that false gods could neither benefit nor harm, and that clinging to them would only lead to destruction in this world and in the hereafter. He reminded them of the fate of earlier nations who had turned away from truth and were destroyed by their own arrogance. His words were not filled with threat alone, but with hope. He promised them forgiveness if they repented, mercy if they turned back, and blessings if they walked the path of righteousness. Noah did not limit his call to a certain class or group. He approached the rich and the poor, the young and the old, the educated and the ignorant. He entered marketplaces, homes, gatherings, and open spaces. He spoke during the day and whispered during the night. He used public sermons and private conversations. He left no stone unturned, no soul untouched. His call was persistent but never harsh. He bore the weight of rejection with grace and continued, inviting with unwavering hope. His mission was not a seasonal campaign but a lifelong commitment. He remained in the service of this divine duty for centuries, never wavering, never retreating. However, the response from his people was almost entirely negative. The majority mocked him, ridiculed his words, and accused him of madness. The leaders of society dismissed him as a mere man like themselves and demanded miraculous signs beyond reason. They accused him of being misguided and of causing division among the community. They questioned why the message of truth would be given to a man of humble background rather than to the powerful elite. They refused to abandon their idols, claiming they were following the traditions of their forefathers. Despite the clarity of his words and the sincerity of his heart, they turned away in arrogance. Noah did not respond with anger or curses. He intensified his efforts with greater compassion. He prayed for their guidance, pleaded for their understanding, and even wept for their salvation. He warned them again and again of the coming punishment if they continued in disbelief, but they only laughed louder and plotted against him. They spread lies about him, discouraged others from listening, and even tried to intimidate his few followers. But Noah remained firm. He knew that guidance was in the hands of the Creator, and that his role was to deliver the message with clarity and patience. Over the years, the rejection did not weaken Noah's resolve. Instead, it deepened his reliance on the Creator. He found strength in solitude and support in divine remembrance. Each time he faced opposition, he turned to his Lord for strength and clarity. His heart remained free of hatred, and his eyes continued to search for souls ready to awaken. Even as the years turned into decades, and the decades into centuries, he held firmly to the message he had been entrusted with. His mission was not based on numbers, but on truth. He measured success not by the crowd, but by the sincerity of the call. Eventually the mockery grew harsher, the opposition became more organized, and the people reached a point where they not only rejected Noah, but also made a public vow never to follow him. They swore oaths that they would remain loyal to their gods and traditions, no matter what he said or did. They accused him of disturbing the peace of the community and creating conflict among families. When even his own wife and son rejected his message and aligned with the disbelievers, the pain in Noah's heart grew deeper. Yet even then he continued calling with sincerity and strength. After centuries of rejection, Noah turned fully to his Lord in sorrow. He poured out his heart in prayer, asking whether there was any hope left for his people. He had exhausted every method, every word, every moment. He had warned them privately and publicly, gently and strongly, with tears and with signs. Yet their hearts remained sealed, and their arrogance only grew. He did not give up on them easily. He had endured lifetimes of insults, mockery, and grief. Only when every door of guidance was closed and every heart had turned away, did he seek divine intervention. The call to prophethood in the life of Prophet Noah was a journey of unmatched endurance, sincerity, and obedience. He was chosen in a time of deep moral and spiritual crisis, and given a mission that would span centuries. He delivered the message with clarity, patience, and love, facing overwhelming rejection with unwavering resolve. His call was not only to words, but to transformation, to truth, to purity. Though his followers were few, his impact was eternal. He stands as a timeless model of what it means to carry the burden of divine truth in a world that resists it. His voice was the voice of mercy before the storm, the warning before the flood, and the light before the judgment. The message and teachings, the message of Prophet Noah, was clear, simple, and timeless. It was not filled with complex theories or elaborate rituals. Instead, it was a direct call to the human heart and conscience. Believe in one God, live with integrity, and prepare for accountability. His words were gentle yet firm, compassionate yet serious. He came not to control, but to guide, offering truth to a world drowning in falsehood. At the heart of Noah's message was monotheism. He reminded his people that there is only one Creator, unseen and all-powerful. The stars, the rain, the mountains, and life itself were signs of this one Lord. He taught that idols were powerless, carved by human hands, unable to help or harm. Worshipping them, he said, was a lie passed down through generations. He emphasized that every individual could connect directly to the Creator. No priests, statues, or rituals were needed. God hears every whisper, sees every action, and knows every heart. Noah invited people to repent, to turn back with humility and trust. He spoke of God's mercy, urging his people to seek forgiveness with sincerity. Alongside faith, Noah taught morality. He called for truthfulness, justice, and compassion. He condemned cheating in trade, arrogance in leadership, and oppression of the weak. He reminded the rich to share with the poor, and warned that greatness lies not in wealth, but in righteousness. He taught that every soul would one day be judged not by social status, but by deeds. Noah urged his people to show gratitude. He pointed to the blessings of nature, food, health, shelter, and family, and reminded them that these gifts came from the Creator. Gratitude, he said, should be expressed through prayer, charity, and obedience. He warned that those who forget their blessings become slaves to their desires. A major theme of his message was accountability. Life, he said, was not without purpose. Every action matters. Every person would return to their Lord to answer for how they lived. He described the day of judgment not as a myth, but as a certain reality. He warned that arrogance and denial would lead to ruin, and that only truth would endure. Noah also addressed family and society. He taught parents to raise their children with love and faith. He called for justice in disputes, kindness to strangers, and protection of the orphan and the weak. He rejected tribal pride and class division. His message united people not by race or wealth, but by shared humanity and righteousness. He delivered his message in many ways, through sermons, private conversations, stories, and examples. He adapted his approach to reach different minds, but never changed the message. He was patient, never forceful. Even when mocked, he responded with calm and hope. His mission was to awaken, not to punish. Despite his sincerity, most rejected him. They called him mad, accused him of seeking power, and mocked the poor who followed him. Yet Noah never gave up. He remained firm for over 900 years, never altering his words for comfort or approval. His strength came from faith, and his hope never died. Perhaps the most beautiful part of Noah's teachings was his unshakable hope. Even when his own son and wife turned away, even when society rose against him, he still called people to mercy. He believed that anyone could change, and that God's forgiveness was greater than any sin. His voice was not one of judgment, but of rescue. In conclusion, the teachings of Prophet Noah were rooted in belief in one God, justice, humility, and the call to return to truth. He was not just a preacher, but a guide, a reformer, and a symbol of mercy. Though his people rejected him, his message remains a light passed down through the ages, calling every soul to sincerity, righteousness, and hope. Challenges and opposition. The mission of Prophet Noah was one of the longest and most difficult ever carried by a human being. He preached for centuries, not in ease or comfort, but in the face of rejection, ridicule, and pain. His message was pure, his heart was sincere, yet most of his people turned away. His life became a powerful example of patience, resilience, and unwavering trust in the Creator. From the very start, Noah faced widespread denial. His people had been worshipping idols for generations. These idols were more than religious figures, they were part of the people's identity, economy, and social order. When Noah called them to abandon their idols and worship the one true God, they felt threatened. His words were seen as an attack, not just on their beliefs, but on their entire way of life. The most powerful opposition came from the elite, leaders, priests, and wealthy families. They controlled society through religion and power. Noah's message challenged their position, so they responded by mocking him, spreading lies, and warning others not to follow him. They called him mad, accused him of seeking power, and claimed his message was dangerous. They used common arguments to discredit him. They said, "He's just a man like us. Why would God choose him?" They claimed that if God were truly displeased, punishment would have come already. They pointed to their wealth and strength as proof that they were favored. Their arrogance blinded them to truth. They mocked what they could not understand. Noah endured daily insults. People laughed at him in public, spread rumors about him, and turned their children against him. Yet he remained calm. He did not fight them with anger. He continued to speak gently, to invite patiently, and to pray for their guidance. His endurance became one of his greatest strengths. One of his deepest trials came from his own family. His wife did not believe in him. She sided with his enemies, mocked his message, and stood against him. One of his sons also rejected the truth. These betrayals hurt Noah deeply. As a father and husband, he had shown them love, but they chose falsehood over faith. Even then, Noah did not hate them. He continued to pray for them and for all people. Noah also faced deep loneliness. Over hundreds of years, only a small group believed in him. His followers were mostly poor and humble, those ignored by society. The elite mocked this too. They said, "Look at his followers, nobodies and fools." But Noah saw worth in every soul. He welcomed all who came sincerely, no matter their status. As time passed, opposition became more aggressive. The believers were boycotted. They were banned from markets, shunned from gatherings, and threatened with exile. Some were beaten. Others lost their homes. Still, Noah stood beside them. He offered comfort, reminded them of their reward, and continued calling others to join. For centuries, Noah prayed. He asked God for strength. He cried in secret, pleading for hearts to open. But the people grew even more resistant. They mocked him harder, turned belief into a crime, and vowed to follow their idols forever. At last, Noah knew they would not change. They had closed their hearts and blocked others from the truth. With sorrow, Noah turned to his Lord. He did not ask for revenge. He asked for justice. He asked that the long darkness be lifted and the truth be honored. His plea came after endless patience, not out of anger, but out of pain for a generation lost in falsehood. In the end, Noah's challenges were not only personal, they were a reflection of what all true reformers face. He was mocked, isolated, betrayed, and tested beyond what most could bear. Yet he never gave up. He never changed his message. He never stopped caring. His struggle became a legacy. His pain became a lesson. His perseverance became a light for all who walk the path of truth. The divine warning and the ark after Hundreds of years of calling people to truth with patience and compassion. Prophet Noah reached a turning point. The people had not only rejected his message, they had mocked it, attacked it, and drowned it. In pride, their hearts were closed, and their ears refused to hear. At this moment, divine revelation came with a new command: stop preaching, and begin preparing. A great flood was coming. The time for warning was over. The time for judgment had arrived. This command was not rooted in revenge, but in justice. The people had been given every chance. Noah had called them day and night, in public and private, with mercy and truth. But they responded with arrogance. The Creator, in His mercy, had delayed punishment for generations. But now, with no hope of change left, the decree came. The earth would be cleansed. Noah was told clearly no more would believe. His mission was no longer to preach, but to act. He was commanded to build an ark, a massive ship that would carry the believers and animals to safety. This ark would not be built near water, but on dry land. It would be constructed under direct divine instruction, in full view of those who mocked him. Without hesitation, Noah obeyed. He gathered wood, tools, and helpers from among his followers. He began building the ark, plank by plank, with his own hands. It was not just a ship, it was a message carved into wood, a declaration of faith. His enemies watched and laughed. They pointed fingers, ridiculed him, and said, "Where is the sea, Noah? What madness is this?" But he did not reply. He kept working, with steady hands and a heart firm in trust. The ark grew. It was large enough to carry believers, animals, and provisions. It was no ordinary boat, it was a symbol of mercy. It would carry the future of humanity, while the earth was cleansed of arrogance. Each strike of the hammer, each nail, was a silent act of worship. As the ark neared completion, mockery reached its peak. People joked, cursed, and challenged Noah to bring the flood he warned about. But their laughter masked their fear. Deep inside, some may have felt a tremble, but pride kept them from admitting it. Then the sign arrived. Water gushed from the earth in places no one expected. The skies darkened. The first raindrops fell not soft and gentle, but heavy and endless. Noah was told to gather the believers, and pairs of animals, male and female of every kind, enter the ark. He was also told that not all of his family would be saved. Only the faithful would find safety. As the believers entered the ark, the earth roared. Springs burst, skies opened, and the flood began. Waves swallowed the land. Cities vanished. Statues were crushed. Idols floated lifeless in the water they could not stop. The people who mocked Noah now ran in terror, but it was too late. The gates of mercy had closed. Among the drowning was Noah's own son. He tried to escape by climbing a mountain. Noah called to him in love, begging him to board the ark. But his son refused, trusting in his own strength instead of God's mercy. A wave rose and swept him away. Noah, broken but obedient, turned his sorrow to silence. Inside the ark, the believers waited. While the storm raged outside, they prayed. Days passed, nights came without stars, but their faith held them steady. Eventually, the rain stopped. The skies cleared. The water began to sink. The ark floated until it came to rest on a mountain safe, and still Noah was told the trial had ended. The world had been washed. A new beginning had come. In the end, the ark was more than wood and nails. It was a sign, a floating message across time. It proved that faith brings safety, that warnings should not be ignored, and that those who trust in the unseen are never lost. The flood washed away falsehood, and from its waters, truth sailed forward. Death and burial, the death of Prophet Noah, marked the close of one of the longest and most remarkable missions in human history. He had spent centuries guiding, warning, enduring, and rebuilding. His life was not marked by luxury or praise, but by truth, patience, and unwavering dedication to his Lord. His passing was quiet, like his life, free from pomp, but filled with meaning. After the flood, Noah lived many more years. He led the survivors with wisdom, teaching the next generation about what had come before. He spoke of the dangers of arrogance and idol worship, reminded them of the flood's lessons, and urged them to remain humble and faithful. He was not just a survivor, he was a teacher, a guide, a living memory of divine justice and mercy. As he grew old, Noah remained devoted. He prayed often, remembered his Lord with every breath, and taught until the very end. His days were peaceful, filled with worship, He asked for nothing from this world. He had seen enough of its false promises. His eyes were now set on the eternal. When his final hour approached, he called his family and followers together. His voice was soft, but his words were powerful. He reminded them again: worship the one God, never return to idols, be grateful, and stay sincere. He warned them that life is short, that judgment is real, and that success lies in the Creator's pleasure, not in wealth, fame, or power. He spoke not with fear but with hope. He told them that faith is the only path worth walking, even if it is lonely or hard. He said the ark had saved them once, but now their actions would be their ark, their protection from future storms. His listeners wept, knowing these were his final words. When he finally lay in rest, his face was peaceful. There was no fear, only calm. His soul, purified through trials and worship, returned to the one he had served for centuries. There were no great signs or loud farewells, only stillness, reverence, and the silent grief of those who had loved and followed him. His burial was simple: no monuments, no gold, no titles, just earth, prayer, and the presence of those who understood his worth. The location of his grave remains uncertain, hidden by divine wisdom. It is not the grave that holds importance, but the message he carried. His story was meant to live in hearts, not in stones. Noah's death reminded humanity of a deep truth. Even the greatest servants must return to their Lord. No matter how long the life, it ends. No matter how heavy the mission, it is completed. What remains is the legacy, the truth he preached, the ark he built, the people he saved, and the light he passed on. He did not leave behind palaces or wealth. He left behind a path, walked in truth and faith. His journey was not one of ease, but of honor. He had been a lone voice in a loud world, a builder of salvation when others mocked him, a father of new beginnings. His return to his Lord was not an end, it was a reward. In the silence of his final breath, a chapter closed. But the waves of his legacy still move across time, reminding every soul that faith survives the storm, that truth outlasts rejection, and that the servant who walks with God never walks in vain. Interfaith perspective. Prophet Noah holds a deeply respected place in the sacred traditions of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Though each faith offers different details, all recognize him as a prophet of righteousness, a warner to his people, and a survivor of a divinely sent flood. His life and mission create a powerful link between faiths, reminding humanity of shared spiritual roots and universal truths. On Judaism, Noah is described as a just man in a corrupt world. The book of Genesis honors him for walking with God, building the ark by divine command, and preserving life during the flood. His story is taught as a lesson in obedience, righteousness, and moral accountability. Jewish tradition also recognizes him as the ancestor of post-flood humanity and introduces the Noahide laws, a set of ethical principles considered binding on all people, not just Jews, emphasizing justice, respect for life, and belief in the Creator. In Christianity, Noah is seen as a man of great faith. The New Testament praises him for building the ark by faith, despite never having seen rain. His perseverance is a model for early Christians who faced persecution. Jesus referred to the days of Noah as a warning for people to remain spiritually awake before judgment. The ark, in Christian thought, often symbolizes salvation and is linked with the concept of baptism and rebirth through water. Noah's story becomes a message of divine grace, moral courage, and readiness for accountability. In Islam, Noah, called Nuz, one of the earliest prophets, and is mentioned in many chapters of the Quran. His mission lasted centuries. He preached monotheism, warned of consequences, and called his people with unmatched patience. The Quran describes him as a devoted servant who remained steadfast even as his own son rejected the message. His story teaches Muslims about trust in God, the importance of truth, and the personal nature of faith. The ark is seen as a sign of God's mercy, and the flood as a lesson in divine justice. Across Abrahamic faiths, Noah stands as a shared symbol of spiritual truth. His life calls believers to honesty, worship, humility, and justice. He is honored as one who endured hardship for the sake of faith, not for power or wealth, but for the salvation of souls. Beyond these three religions, flood stories similar to Noah's appear in ancient cultures, such as the Mesopotamian Epic of Gilgamesh, which tells of a man saved from a global flood by divine instruction. Though these stories differ in theology, They show that the memory of a righteous man surviving a great flood is part of humanity's collective story, revealing deep fears and hopes that cross cultures. In today's world, Noah serves as a bridge for interfaith conversation. He reminds Jews, Christians, and Muslims of their shared heritage and shared duties to uphold justice, care for the earth, reject arrogance, and follow truth. His story is used in modern interfaith dialogue to promote unity and ethical cooperation. As the world faces ecological, moral, and spiritual crises, Noah's message remains relevant. The flood represents the consequences of human corruption. The ark represents the path of salvation built on obedience and faith. Noah's life urges people across all beliefs to work together for a more just, humble, and God-conscious world. In conclusion, Prophet Noah is a timeless figure whose legacy reaches beyond religious boundaries. He is remembered not just for surviving a flood, but for building a path of truth when the world was drowning in falsehood. His voice echoes in scriptures and hearts alike. His story calls all of humanity to turn from pride, seek mercy, and walk the path of righteousness before it is too late.